Hi, welcome to Bubba Rocks Media. This is my favorite show. It is the Rising Band show. And today I am joined by a singer-songwriter who has just recently headlined the second stage of Yungblud's Bludfest, as well as collabed with the legend that is Justin Hawkins of The Darkness. Please welcome Simon Walker. Welcome, Simon.
How you doing? You okay?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you.
Well, look, thanks for doing
Really
this
good.
today.
No, thank
I'm
you for having
excited
me.
to get chatting, and I have been listening to the music all week, and I have a favorite. So
Okay.
we're going to chat about all that. So I'm definitely excited to do this, but let's just begin. I always like to go to the very beginning. I always find it fascinating how someone decides to go on the road of becoming a musician. So for yourself, was there a defining moment where you went, yes, this is what I've got to do? Or did it just happen organically, randomly one day? Or, was there like a reasoning behind how you got into this road of musicianship?
I think really, my family do not have a musical bone in their body whatsoever.
Really? Well,
I loved music. My dad loved music. My mum loved her music, like totally different styles, and I loved all that. But I think in my early teens, or I might have been just turned maybe 13, maybe. All my friends at the time, we was skateboarding, we was rollerblading, and all the things we did like sort of that age back then. And I remember breaking my arm, and my mum was like, "You're not doing that anymore." And I still wanted to kind of fit in, and I wanted to be still look kind of cool. And I remember seeing this guitar when I was with my dad one day. We was looking around a car boot sale. I remember seeing this guitar just sat on a stand on a stall, and I remember saying to my dad, I want that guitar." And I remember he said something along the lines of, "You don't stick to anything. You'll never stick to anything, and you won't keep at it." And I said, "I will." So at first, it became a thing to prove my dad wrong, that I wanted to keep at it to prove him wrong. And then after a while, I thought, you know what, I like this, and I really like it, and I feel like that was just it was nice how it turned out. Whether he meant that to try and push me, or whether he actually meant that and said, "I don't stick to anything." So it just went from there, really.
Yeah. And were you self-taught then with the guitar, or did you get
I,
lessons?
I had so this is going back, probably showing me an age, but this is going back many moons ago, where the internet wasn't quite as much as like quite as easy accessible as it is now. So I remember we had a tutor that came out maybe 3 or 4 times, but to be honest, I just sat and just watched him in awe. And then I learned over the years to do a lot of things by ear. Yeah, kind of self-taught, mostly.
Yeah, I think that's always the better way. It's the same with my partner and my son. They're both kind of self-taught, more or less. Even my son, like, he learned the guitar and then he also learned piano. But he got to, like, I think he just did grade 1 in the piano and then went, right, I know what I'm doing now. And then just kind of went from there. So I always find that fascinating that people can do that. I've kind of started with the guitar just recently for a laugh, really. Just to try to see what it's like from a band's perspective, like, because of the amount of work you guys have to put in, to get to where you're able to make songs and go and perform them. But even from the very basics, the very beginnings of learning an instrument, there's a lot goes into it. So that's why I'm learning, just to see what it's like behind the curtain, really, of learning. And it's hard. There's a lot involved, and I'm not musically gifted that way. So I know a good song, I hear it, but I can't. Oh gosh, no, can't play. All fun, and it's a way for me, even as a music journalist, just to try to understand further how much work you guys are putting into it. So I just also want to know, I'm always fascinated by this as well. Who are you a fan of? Who have you been listening to, or have your parents even influenced you? Because I know we've done that with our son. My dad did it with me. you know, just with the Beatles and things like that, just constantly listening to that as a child. And I'm always fascinated to hear, has that helped to influence and shape your tastes and who you're a fan of? And then ultimately, has that then shaped your sound and your music?
I think so. As I mentioned a second ago, my mum and dad had different tastes growing up. My mum would listen to rather things like Sam Cooke and whatever else, and my dad, he was he's a big Queen fan. He loved his power ballads and things like that.
Yeah.
So I've always been lean towards that 80s sort of sound, but I love the soulfulness of like Sam Cooke and whatever else. I wouldn't necessarily say that has reflected in any music I've done previously. I think it's because I've been quite scared to dip into something I've wanted to do, if that makes sense. But I feel like at this moment in my career, I'm just about to go into a transition where I'm starting to write and record things that I've always wanted to, and I'm really enjoying it at the moment, which is leaning towards more the 80s sort of synth guitar sort of sound. And
nice.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying it. So it has come full circle, to be fair.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like I've seen other bands as well and other artists who have, when they first start out, you know, they're like doing the stuff that they think they should be doing rather than what they really want to do. But then as they progress and grow as artists, they start to go, no, you know what, I'm just going to do what I want to do now. And once they've established themselves a bit more too. So that would be cool to actually elaborate more on later as well. But first, we're going to actually play a song. We're going to play a track. I'm going to start with, I believe this one is the new release, Love Cursed Memory.
Yeah.
So we're going to play that and then we'll have a wee chat about it afterwards. So this is Love Cursed Memory.
Now you're gone, just a love cursed memory. Call me up, cause you still.
Oh my gosh. Love that song. I actually was surprised by the guitar solo too. Loved it. The way that it just kind of sings the song. I've always loved that, you know, in a melody, and then the guitar starts to carry the song as well.
Yeah.
I enjoy that kind of thing. And what I want to know about this song is just basically the inspo behind it. And if you faced any challenges when recording it, and the production too, because the production in all your songs I've noticed is amazing. So I just want to just kind of lean a bit more into just all the creative process behind them as well as their inspiration.
Okay, so first of all, I do all my recordings with a good friend of mine, Peter Redshaw. He's a fantastic producer, instrumentalist, and everything. So I take these ideas to him, or I'll sometimes track some ideas at home, and I'll take them into him, and then we take it from there. So everything that I've done, I do it with him, and he brings things to life. So I'm really grateful to him for that. And I've got some 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know how many, loose track, but I've got some more songs kind of in the bank that are waiting to come out. In regards to the inspiration for this song particularly, I guess I was around about a year ago. I was in a relationship where it was kind of like a bit of a roller coaster. It was up and down, and it was one of them things. But I think there were so many things that happened in a short space of time where I felt that I was 1 minute at the highest of high and then really at the lowest of lows, and I feel that it's a kind of mental struggle. So originally the song was, the original version of it was basically me saying I'm sorry for kind of being not what you want me to be, sort of thing. But then as things sort of transpired, and I turned it more into a bit more of a story and tried to make it kind of relatable if anybody's been in a situation where you might feel like you're the problem. But then as you start to unpick and as things sort of pan out, things kind of come to light. And then you actually hence why halfway through the song it's kind of like it changes the dynamic, but like actually maybe the problem's on you. I don't feel like, as in, when I write a song like that, I feel how to describe it is if I've journaled that and I've put that out there, and that's a song, and that's just gone, and then you like kind of let go of that as a song, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you've got to, because you can't get attached in that aspect. I ask so many friends and writers like if they do the same, and I certainly feel for me that's the best way to do it.
It's actually very clever too, because I did kind of notice that the change, and I was like, oh, because it was interesting. You know, you're kind of like, you connect with it, and then it actually turns it around. You're like, what? That's a good point. So it's very cleverly written. I really enjoyed that one. And again, the production that you mentioned, do you both play the instruments as well while recording?
So I will play majority of the acoustic, obviously the vocals, but in all honesty, some of the stuff I just let him have free reign with quite a lot of it, and he comes up with something, or I've got some ideas and I've played some things, and then half of the time, because he's one of them talented guys that can just do anything, and I'm like, in fact, I like your version better, let's do your version. Yeah,
it's nice to have, though. It's nice to have somebody to bounce off as well when you're doing that. And it works really, really well because the songs are so well put together, musically as well as production. You know, they're just so interesting and so great to listen to. Like, I've really kind of stripped them down and listened really, really well. I do that. I get really obsessive. And I've enjoyed them that way. But I know that you're also heavily involved in songwriting, and you have actually collabed with quite a few big names. Impressive. Like including Justin Hawkins, the legend that is. Can you tell me a bit more about who all you have collabed with, and how they have come about? How did that happen?
Well, the Justin Hawkins one, that one was actually it was a songwriting camp, to be fair, in Spain. I remember seeing something on Instagram, maybe, I don't know if it was the back end of last year, and I saw something, and it was Justin was going to be hosting this songwriting camp with Kyle Faulkner from The View, the band The View, and it was all done through La Sierra Casa. I love them guys. Give them a shout out. And I showed some interest in that, and I was very keen to get involved. They got in touch, and we had a discussion, and it was a case of going out there. And I went out there in April, and there was a handful of different musicians, all different styles and different points of the career, and it was just an intense week of songwriting. Everybody was writing with each other, people writing with Justin and with Kyle, hanging out, and yeah, it was brilliant. So I finished one song with Justin, so yeah, I'm really excited to get that released.
That sounds amazing. Did you learn much about yourself then as a songwriter, or anything new while you were out there working with these people?
Yeah, I did, to be fair. At the time with Justin, we were talking, and I feel like there was one particular line that I was trying to look for a hook in the chorus, or like the pre-chorus to a song, and we couldn't figure out what the best hook would to be. We knew what the melody was, and we went over it and over again, and he just randomly came out with this word, and I laughed at the time, and we just kept joking and saying it over and over again, that every time we went through the song. And then he explained after the session, the reason why he did that is to get that embedded in my head. So then I've got that melody embedded in my head, but then somewhere down the line, I can change that. And he showed me, he told me about some demos that the Darkness did early on, and they did something similar,
Mm-hmm.
and I just thought that was something so similar, so simple, but
Mm-hmm.
it was really effective. And I thought that's just, yeah, that I took that with me. So that were a nice bit of.
Great. Yeah, it's always good to learn something like that. And then I also read that you do work with, you do collabs with people, with other writers and stuff yourself.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a wee bit more about that and how people can actually reach out to you to be able to connect if they're interested?
So I do. I think my main goal when it comes to the time where I want to hang the guitar up on the wall, for example, my dream goal is to be a songwriter. I feel like full-time songwriter, and I feel like for me, I know I can write a song. I've got hundreds of songs I've written, but I can't always like perform them myself, or I can't get them out there the way I envision it.
Yeah.
So I enjoy the creative process with working with other people. And so yeah, I've done that a couple of times over years, and written with friends and whoever else. And I did another songwriting camp with two good friends of mine, some brothers, a duo called the Dunwells. We went to the French Alps, and again there was a bit like a camp, and I went there not as an artist, just as a writer, and I was getting involved with other artists. And I think it was then I decided like that's what I want to push a lot more as well.
Yeah.
But since then I've done various things. I do a lot of writing with Talyard Music, and I got Talyard London, Talyard North, and I do a lot of writing with just anybody and everywhere really. So I've got some bits coming up. I've got some co-writes I've done with other people that they're about to release and things. So just a case of if anybody's interested, just reach out. Either like probably my socials, to be fair, is the best place.
That's awesome. Like there's so many, like I'm always aware, and I'm doing a lot of this as well for the newer bands that are starting out, so I can get advice from folks like yourself just to be able to help them. And like that's an amazing idea to be able to have somebody that you can reach out to and be able to get advice and stuff regarding songwriting. Like that's awesome, dude. Can I also ask you, you've obviously mentioned there you love songwriting. Do you equally love performing, or is there something that you lean more towards? I'm guessing it might be the songwriting, but I'm curious just to see,
Yeah, I do. There's no, I feel like, because this sounds so backwards in some essence, like I know that I've been gigging a hell of a long time. I went through the stage of I had my own. I had a band in my early 20s, and while I was in a band, I was just a guitarist, and we did some fairly decent shows. After that ended, I became like just doing covers and things like that. So I've done that, for years. And then on and off, I'd be doing originals gigs and pushing them. And I've started to get back into that. But I feel like when a gig is good, there's no better feeling.
Yeah.
When there's sometimes, and I know that's the case of everyone, and that just happens. But there's some times where I felt like giving up, more times than I can remember. Not just the case of just a gig, maybe a mindset or something like that. Whereas if you're in a room and if you're writing and things, you can sometimes you can do it by yourself, or you can do that with somebody, with a group or a team. And I feel like that's a good way to just let out those emotions and those feelings, and just, like I said, journal.
Yeah.
So there's good aspects in both. I wouldn't say there's one that I particularly at the moment love more than the other.
Okay, cool. And speaking of performing, you did recently headline the second stage of Bludfest. Like, what? That's
Oh.
incredible. So I just want to ask a wee bit more about how that came about. How did that happen?
Well, I know that. So just to clarify, they did have the first and second stage, and I know I was playing. It was almost the third stage, so it was like a Camden. They call it Camden Station stage, yeah. So I don't want to be don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But so I was performing at a bar on New Year's Eve. The New Year's Eve just gone, and it was going quite well. It was just a nice chilled evening, and my friend Craig was the head chef there at the time, so he booked me, and he came over halfway through, like my first break, and he came over and he said, "Do you know Yungblud's in the around the corner?" And I remember saying something like, "What, as in actual Yungblud?"
Yeah. And
he said, "Yeah, he's with his manager and some friends." And I said to him, "I can't go over, can I?" And he was like shrugging his shoulders. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
So I did go over, and I'd introduced myself, and I just basically said, like, because I'd seen him on his socials, and I'd followed him for a while, and I just liked what he stood for.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I admired that. So I spoke to him a bit about that, and he complimented me at the time, and his manager did as well, about me playing. Originally, he did say he would like to sing a song with me, and I thought, oh wow, okay. And I mean, that didn't happen, unfortunately. That's my biggest regret. So I went and did my thing, and then I went and joined him after my set, and I hung with him for a bit. And I remember asking his manager, I think Adam, and I remember saying to him, "Are you doing the festival again this year?" As in this one just gone. And yeah, so he said, "Yeah, would you like to come?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And then I spoke to Dom Yungblud at the same time, and I said, "So my daughter's a huge fan, my daughter Cora." And he said, I can't remember if I said, "Can we do a little video?" And because it around about midnight, we actually FaceTimed her, and he then was on FaceTime talking to her, and it was complimentary of me, and she was with all her friends. She was shocked, and
wow,
she was speechless. And he asked her at that point, "Would you like to come to would you like to come to Bludfest?" And she said yes. And he said, "Well, bring your dad's merch." And it was something along the lines of, because I'm going to ask him if he wants to play it. And I'm stood like over his shoulder, and I was like, yeah, sure. So I made sure I didn't leave without getting some email address or some contact details or anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's incredible. And that just shows you that, you know, you listened to your gut and you went over in the first place, and look what happened. Like, it just shows you, listen to your gut, people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when you actually did perform at Bludfest, how did it go for you?
I feel like the performance itself, I feel like I didn't think too much about it. I just wanted to go and kind of have a good time and just enjoy it. And I personally feel like it went really well, and it seemed to go down well. Yeah, my daughter and my son, and awesome. my son's girlfriend as well.
Oh, that's so cute.
So yeah, but I think for me personally, I loved every second of it, every second of the full day, to be fair. But specifically the performance, I really enjoyed that.
Did you learn anything new about yourself in performing to such a large audience as well? This is a proper festival size as opposed to smaller, you know, venues.
I feel like because of the slot that I had, I was in between the two headliners, and I know by sort of that point there would have been a fair few that want to keep their place at the barriers and stuff, and that was absolutely fine. Yeah. So when I first kind of started out the set, it was a relatively, for the festival, I guess, relatively small sort of gathering round, and then people just kind of kept coming over, and it ended up just being a nice crowd. But I feel like sometimes if you get into that element, for me, I can't overthink that in that moment, because I think that's when you can get in your head. I just tried to embrace people just listening, and there were some people that singing along to songs that I thought, how have they heard this? You know, so yeah, it was really good, and it was very wholesome as well.
You mentioned there that some of the audience were able to sing along. When you were like there and you're seeing them doing that, did that teach you anything more about the songs? I guess, did it surprise you of any that stood out more than others that you thought maybe would have stood out more in comparison?
Yeah, there's a song that I've got that I co-wrote with a guy called Nick Sang, who has done. He wrote a couple of tracks for Jess Glynn. He's done work with Busted, and he's Scouting for Girls, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
And there's a part in that song that after the chorus that I miss out when I play live, and it's just like whoa, just like those, and I miss it out because it's hard to then get back into the verse if I'm playing it by myself. So, and I feel when I got to that part of the song, then that's what I could hear people singing, because it was that gap, and I thought, well, how would they know? How would they even know that? So yeah, so that was a nice little touch, to be fair.
That's really cool. And I know as well that you did share something quite personal at Bludfest, and I was wondering if you're happy to talk a bit more about that and share this.
Absolutely. So I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 20. So I had a tumor in my knee, and I had to get my leg amputated above knee. And I feel like since then, I guess it's only normal, I guess, but over the years I've struggled with kind of identity crisis, almost, like when it comes to personal life, and then trying to be an artist or be a musician, because I don't want to be seen in that light, if that makes sense. Years ago, I went to audition for a popular talent show, and I remember going in, and I spoke to I performed, and we had a good chat about my song choice and kind of what I liked and what inspired me. And then I feel like the story shifted onto my leg, basically, and my disability, if you like. And I remember saying at the time something like that. I don't want to push that. That doesn't define me, as if like that. And to be honest, I've hidden it for as long as I can remember. The matter with Bludfest was more to the point, it was scorching that day, and I woke up that the morning and I thought, I'd love to just wear a pair of shorts, but I thought, I don't want that to be a thing. I don't want to draw attention to myself. Excuse me. And when I got there, just straight away, even queuing up and seeing everybody like going through and whatever else, it was just so beautiful to see. There was so many just totally different people, all in one space, smiling, having a great time all day. It was like, I love the whole community that's under like the Yungblud umbrella, almost, like. And I felt like everybody were there, no matter what their self-doubts were and insecurities. Everybody was just there with each other. There was so much love, and And for the first time, I think that I've ever really openly expressed it in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
I shared it with the people that were listening to my songs, like, and I shared it, and I said, like I've just said to you now, like I felt the love, and I felt accepted, and I felt like I could let that part of me free in that moment, and it was very overwhelming. And to be honest, I thought about it on the way home, and I had a little bit of a cry, and I felt like it was a big personal achievement. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I learned a hell of a lot that day about
Yeah.
myself, and just the world, and how things work, I guess.
But that's beautiful. And actually, thank you for sharing. Because there is going to be someone who maybe watched you or who is listening, and you've now just inspired them to go, do you know what? I can do whatever I want to do. This isn't going to stop me, and it isn't going to define me. It's a
Yeah.
part of me, but it's not all of me. I
Yeah,
relate too. I have disability myself. And like I've never really wanted it to be like the definition of who I am either. It's just a part of us. And it's beautiful to be able to share it and talk about it and be open about it, but to also be more than just that. So thank you. And again, it is going to help someone somewhere. So it's a huge deal as well, to be able to do that. But so we're actually going to move into another song, and it's actually my favorite one of them all. Called Worthless. Absolutely love this song. It is beautiful. We'll talk about it again after, but we'll just play the track now for everybody to hear. Guys, this is Worthless.
Do you ever feel alone? Do you ever find shelter, baby?
Wow, it's definitely my favorite, Simon. I absolutely connected to the song immediately. The lyrics, the melody, and your vocal. Wow. You can hear your emotion. It's raw. It's beautiful. And again, like when I really connect with the songs, I'm one of these people, I just emotionally connect, and it'll tickle the dopamine, and then I play it over and over and over again, which I have done with this song. So I'm just curious, were there challenges in creating this song? Or did it come quite easily for you? And just a bit more about its creative process.
The idea for the song, I think it came from a moment of, I don't think it was something direct as in somebody had made me feel that way. I think it was a collectiveness of sort of maybe what I felt at the time, something along with society, and then that brought up things again, whether it meant it was in like be accepted and whatever else. There were a whole lot of things as if it were a collectiveness. So when it says don't let them tell you you're worthless, as in like any but them, as in a collective of anyone, whether it be society or someone individually. But it was also, at the time, I was going through something quite personal, like some sort of mental struggles and stuff I had at the time as well. And I can hold my hands up and say that at some point down in my life that I've probably said some things that has hurt some people as well, and I feel like, as in, because I'm aware of that, and words are mean, words are horrible, and they stick with people, and it was the case of just be like, it was it was a song almost to myself, but also as in like, look, if you've ever felt this way, then just know that you're not alone, really.
Yeah.
So that's where that came about.
Yeah, and the video as well. The video is really well put together, and the acting, everything. It's absolutely beautiful. How did that come about? Is that like the actors, proper actors, because they look like proper actors?
No, the video itself is just it's just a video catalog, if you like. It was just put something sort of visual to the audio. The idea was to do something similar and get that recorded at the time, and likewise with there was supposed to be a UK video for the Love Curse Memory as well, but I got stuck in Australia and couldn't get home, so
Oh
I had to
gosh.
get cancelled. So yeah, so I didn't really get chance to do what I want to do with the video.
Mm.
And I always have this habit of saying, oh, I'll do that at some point and I'll revisit that. And I never do.
Mm.
And maybe one day, I don't know.
Well, regardless, just as somebody watching who doesn't know anything behind it, it works really well.
Yeah.
It does help to capture the song itself, because the song itself just stands out to me above, most other songs out there at the moment. I just thought it was absolutely beautiful. And it did mention your vocals. This is coming from someone who cannot sing. I would like to be able to, but I cannot. Luckily, my son inherited his singing voice from his father and not from me. But I'm always curious with singers. Did you always know that you could sing like that, or did you have to work on it and develop it? Did you get professional training, and like did you learn anything new from that as well, just about what you can do in your range? Just a bit more about that behind the scenes, really, about the vocal.
No, I loved singing when I was as younger, and I remember being in various choirs and whatever at school, and I remember not being particularly good, to say the least. But I
Really?
know that I enjoyed it. And even I don't feel like I was really that great when I was in my early 20s. And I said I was in that band,
Yeah.
and I was just the guitarist. And then something happened where I ended up becoming the vocalist with things in the band, and I knew that I enjoyed that. And it was only after a little bit of a break to then get back into doing the covers gigs,
Mm-hmm.
and I just thought, I need to take this step. So I think it's only as I've got a little bit older and matured, maybe not in my mind, but I've matured in as an artist or as a singer or whatever else. And I guess just the more I've done that,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of just been a long process, but just with the amount that I've done it really over the years. So it's nothing. I don't think I was naturally gifted with that. So
That's fascinating to me. I've heard that a few times from really good singers, that singing wasn't actually their first choice and they never really saw themselves as a singer, but you're just naturally gifted with that. And actually adding on to that, for like the newer bands that might be listening here, do you have like a tip even for a young singer who's starting out to look after their voice? I'm always fascinated to hear how you all look after your voices when you're out.
This is opening a can of worms, because I have this conversation with so many of my friends, musician friends, and they all have different techniques, and they steam the voice and they really look after it, go on vocal rest. If I'm totally honest, I feel like I sound better when I'm not feeling 100%. If I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, I feel like sometimes I feel like that gives me, for my stuff that I like to play, gives me a bit of a rough edge and a bit of a it gives me a bit of raspiness. And I probably should take care of my voice a little bit better. But I certainly don't do half of the things that some friends do. So I'm maybe not the best person to ask for advice, but don't be like me.
I appreciate the honesty, though. It's still good advice. Kids, look after your voices.
Yeah.
You might regret it in 30 years. Who knows? Or, I mean, look at like even the singer of Him, Vila Vallo. He's an incredible singer, but he was a party animal. But now, he can still sing really, really well. So you're like, how did he smoke all them cigarettes, but he can still smell or sing really, really well?
Yeah.
So it just really fascinates me that. And like, again, speaking of these new bands, you're definitely, doing really well, you're rising, and I always like to ask from your perspective for a brand new band starting out, again, advice on the reality of being in a band or a singer-songwriter, and also if there's anything you can advise for the first steps in like booking shows, touring, things like that, that can help them to not feel too overwhelmed. Because I feel like nowadays in the modern era of music, there is a lot of overwhelm for the new kids starting with social media, streaming, and everything involved, cost. So have you advice and tips for them just for starting out to get on that road to not feel too much overwhelmed, but also be a bit realistic with them?
I think the best bit of advice I would give is whatever direction you think you want to take is, one, probably stay true to yourself. And this industry, I guess, has changed a hell of a lot. It's always changing. There's always going to be someone out there that will sell you a dream, but there'll also be someone out there that does want to help you. But it's, I think you need to stay true to yourself. Enjoy it, first and foremost. And there is opportunities out there for people. People will listen. But the biggest thing I would say is not to compare yourself to anybody else. Don't compare yourself to another artist and another, everybody's journey is different.
Yeah.
And some people realistically can get a lucky break, but it doesn't mean that they've not grafted at some point to then get there. And so, yeah, I'd say just enjoy it, stay true to yourself, and yeah, don't compare yourself to anyone, really. That's
good advice, actually. And just like kind of moving on a wee bit here, just to get I'm always curious, do you have a dream venue, dream show, aside from Bludfest, obviously, that you would love to do, and also someone that you would love to collab with that you haven't already yet?
Ooh. As in,
absolute dream.
This is just a dream. Like, even if it's just out of this world, I think that I am a huge Stevie Nicks fan. Like Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, yeah. So that would be the ultimate collab, or even just to, I don't know, just to even be a fly on the wall if she's doing some creative process or whatever, just to be in a room if she were doing something, to say that I was part of that. As for like a venue or a show or something, that's a tricky one. It's a question I've been asked a few times, and over the years, my answer's changed. And of course, there's some venues where I'd love to play, but I don't. As I've got a bit older, and I say again, using that thing as in feel a bit wiser in that aspect of what I want. Like realistic. To me, I'm not too fussed where it is, as long as, again, like they said with that advice, I'm trying to give that back to myself, as long as I have a good time and I can take something from it. But also, if there's a room there and people are connecting with it, it doesn't matter to me if it's a small crowd or necessarily a big crowd, as long as like I've connected with somebody in some aspect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't particularly have one specific venue as such.
That's like I've heard that actually a few times as well. There's those, it depends really on your, what you are feeling at the time, and the audiences too, because the audience is always the main thing behind it all. They're the ones that are showing you, and you feel their energy and you're giving the energy back. And yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And so just as well, like you had mentioned about being in a band before. And I'm curious as to the contrasts in being in a band as opposed to being a singer-songwriter, because I know that there are issues sometimes with being in a band. You have to manage all these other people, but also equally you have like a family almost when you're in a band, as opposed to a singer-songwriter when you're more on your own. So are there pros and cons for both? And what do you think is better ultimately?
I think so. I was only in like I said, my early 20s. I'm in my 30s plus now, and I think at the time we was just youngish, and we wanted to just again have a good time and picking up some decent gigs and festivals and some support slots and things. And at the time we was quite different to what was around at the time as well. So I loved all that, but then it became a couple of years in, it became apparent that a lot of that in reality wasn't going to pay bills at the time and stuff. And it was kind of a shame to put that to bed at the end. And that's why I started kind of doing the cover shows and whatever else to make ends meet. And then I've tried a couple of times putting a band together for some bigger shows, and I feel like as much as sometimes I do, well, most of the time I love doing it on my own. I like that independence that I've got where I can choose what to do and what time I rock up, what I'm going to play, what's on set list and whatever else. And I know that I can manage that because I'm so used to it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop me thinking, I wish I could play with a band, right here, right now. So funny enough, that is what I am kind of working on at the minute, as in for potentially, maybe I'd say early next year, to put together a band and to go and play the new material live, basically.
And you were saying there that you were just kind of within the next year you're going to be working on the band?
Yeah, so I'm hoping for potentially early next year to try and at least get something together, so I can take this new direction of material that I'm working towards, and this new sound that I've kind of developing this new sound, this new era almost for me as an artist, and then put that together in a band sense for things next year and putting on a run of shows or potentially even festivals and things like that. So yeah, that's been my thought process over the past month or two, to be fair.
Well, that's exciting and something to look forward to. And actually, we're just going to play another track now. And we're going to play Risk It All. And then, as always, we'll have a wee chat about it afterwards. So here we are. This is Risk It All. Again, another amazing track. I actually like the heavier sound to this one as well. I find it heavier. And as always, I just want to hear like from yourself, because I pulled some more of like of an uplifting vibe from this song too. So I'm just keen to know what the inspiration is behind this one, and its meaning, and just a bit more information about it, because I definitely find this one heavier and uplifting and actually really enjoyed it. So if you can just let us know a wee bit more behind it.
So this one was a song I wanted to, I think it was shortly after I'd done Worthless, and Worthless was then, at that time, it transitioned to something that I saw myself leaning towards. Maybe not the sound that I actually now know that I want, but at the time it was just going to be Worthless, then into something like Risk It All. And then I had maybe 4 or 5 tracks that got progressively heavier
Mm-hmm.
and that's coming from my heavier influences. Like I love a band called Daughtry. I love
Yes. Yeah.
Chris Daughtry.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And yeah, so they did something similar where he's obviously transitioned and he's realized he wanted to go down that path. But then I actually thought when that came out, I thought, maybe I was still stuck in that limbo of maybe I'm not ready for that. And so that never really happened. But I loved the idea of it was almost like a driving rock song.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I felt like that was the direction I wanted at that time. So I feel like, yeah, I had the music already with my friend Peter. We had that. We were struggling for so long with the writing aspect lyrically. And then I reached out to Nick Sang, who I mentioned, did the work with Jess Glynn and Busted, and he's played with so many people and wrote with so many people. So him and Stuart Brock, they're in a band called Year of the Lion. So they did I sent that and I said, would you be interested in helping with this? And they finished it off and I sent it over and I said, look, see what you think to this. And I loved it. So I went back in the studio and I just recorded that again.
I love the fact that you are evolving always with your music. It's another great example too to the younger bands listening, to let them see, you don't have to make the decision on your sound straight away, because it can evolve organically over time as you age as well. We change. So it's just really cool to hear that is happening as well with yourself, and it's working too. And I'd love to know as well, because like I mentioned earlier about the production and the recordings of the songs are so good. Is there anything within the recording process in the studio that you absolutely love?
With the studio itself, I'm a sucker for getting in my head when it comes to, like, I put a lot of pressure on myself when it comes to actually trying to deliver what I think I can hear. And I think that comes from self-doubt and everything and whatever else sometimes, and that almost as if it's like an imposter syndrome and like what am I doing here? So I think like that's the case with majority of artists, especially my friends feel the same way. But what I do love is the whole creative process of then putting something in. You add something in, you're like, oh, I like that, and then something else goes in. You're like, no, actually, I love that, and I like how exciting that is. I like it when it then comes together. That's what really drives me with that creative process of putting the jigsaw pieces together.
Yeah, that's cool.
And there's been a couple of occasions where then that project's finished and you kind of like, oh, it's kind of finished now, because you can get so involved and attached with it at that moment.
You also have like a vision as a songwriter. You have like a vision in your head, you have ideas, and then it's just a matter of getting that out and then having other people who get it and understand and are able to work with you to pull that out. And it's always nice to be able to bounce off somebody, I think, as well. I see it with, my partner, my son, when they're creating as well. It fascinates me, the whole thing. But also, have you ever been given like advice by somebody in the music industry that has stuck with you and really resonated, aside from what we mentioned earlier with Justin? But was there anything else that you've been advised about that's really helped to help you grow?
I think that when I mentioned earlier about the not comparing yourself to other people, that was advice that I've actually been giving myself. I can't remember exactly who it was from, because I've been a victim of that to myself, so many times over the years. And that this day and age in this industry, it seems almost like numbers based, and whether
Yeah.
it be on social media, it's all numbers based on even on likes and streams and whatever else. And you could see someone doing really well, you know, and it can, if you put a song out there and it doesn't really kind of get anywhere, you're competing with algorithms and all sorts, and it can be really daunting that you've put your heart and soul into something that you think, you know, people are going to enjoy this, or you know, someone might relate to this, but then it's hard to get heard. But you might see somebody else who you might think is on the same like playing field as you, like, you know,
Yeah.
in some aspect. But what you, I guess, what people have got to realize, and what I had to realize was, like I said, everybody's journey is different. You know, and as long as you're having a good time, and does it really matter if, you know, would you prefer to have 10,000 people in a room and have, or let's say, would you rather have 10,000 streams and 10 people connect personally to it? Or would you rather have 100 streams and have, you know, 80% of that them really connect to it? It's all, a lot of it is kind of smoke and mirrors, kind of, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's just a case of, you know, just knowing yourself, what works for you. But yeah, I think that's certainly advice. If I could tell my younger self, it'd be kind of just like, just enjoy it. You could, I've got to a point and make a career out of it. So
yeah,
I never thought that I'd ever be a thing, and I know that the younger version of me would be really proud of that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You've had a great year actually this year as well. And like, speaking of the music industry, is there anything that, say, in a magical world you could change? Is there anything you would change about it, especially particularly the modern world side of it?
I'm not. I don't kind of want to get into any politics with that when it comes to the. I think every musician who's putting out sort of music will, you know, and even an independent or small sort of level, relatively small, up and coming. It's the whole streaming things and stuff like that, because that's a done thing. Like, it can be quite hard when you are going up against like algorithms and same things with social media and trying to put your music out there. I think it's just the way that the world has, I guess, evolved, and the whole modern technology and stuff has evolved in that. Sounds so old saying that, but I feel like it has changed a lot. Where it used to be, used to go to a show, like, and I'd have physical CDs of demos and old recordings and things like that. And that's, to be honest, I could make more money than the gig itself at that point, getting 100% revenue for recordings of my own songs, and you know, and it's hard enough to get, if you want to get anything like that, you've got to be racking up hundreds of thousands of streams, you know.
Yeah. It's definitely harder from that perspective, but it is a new world, like you said. So it's, you know, you have to adapt and you have to just get on with it and do what needs to be done. And I love the physical music. I like to have the CD or the vinyl, because I even remember, you know, it was CDs, and it had, you know, you were able to take out the sleeve and you're able to read the lyrics, and maybe there was a poster in it. You know, I love that side of it. So for me, I would love to certainly have more people going for the CDs, because I always say, you know, like, zombie apocalypse comes, what are you going to do? There's no music then if yours is all digital. But if you have batteries and a CD player and your CDs, you're safe. You still got your music for a while anyway. So good valuable lesson there, kids. Buy CDs. But just as well, from your musical perspective, what do you hope your music will offer to fans, to people listening? What do you hope they'll get from it?
The music itself, I feel with majority of my music, I try to put some sort of, it's not a conscious effort to put something in there to make it be relatable. It's something that a lot of it I've tried to be, don't get me wrong, there's the odd song where it's kind of, it's not reality, or it might just be something random, but majority of my songs that I've had before, or things that I play live, have been about personal time in my life, or something I've kind of been involved in, or whatever. And I feel like music is just about perception, really. Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've had songs before, and I've had a song that I thought it was a happy song. I can't remember. Yeah, it's another song I used to play live. It was a happy song, but people relate to that in a sad way. And it always baffled me because it was perception of that. Yeah. And I feel like I just want people to try and I want to encourage people to take what they can from it, whether that be, you know, their own perception of it, not necessarily what's in black and white, and not read that as it's just actually stated and what it looks like. Envision, well, try and perceive it how you think it should be perceived.
That's amazing. And like for me, music has always been like an emotional connection for me. It's always been just how it makes me feel straight away, and it's always been a healing process for me. I've always turned to music for that. So I think musicians in general are magicians, you know, wizards, like with what you can actually create and connect with somebody else when you're writing something that has just been a healing process for yourself, really, but somebody else, once you've released it, has connected as well. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. That's what I love about music. So we're going to actually be moving on here to the song that we're going to be playing us out, which is Tensmere Bay. And I find this one actually uplifting and inspiring and haunting. I actually really enjoyed this one, and now I want to go and see Tensmere Bay. It's so good. But can you just give us a wee bit more about the song before we actually play it out then?
Yeah, so this song, this is the first song I've ever done everything. So I wrote this one, I recorded it, I've played everything that's on there, I produced it myself, and I wasn't really going to put it out there. It wasn't going to be a thing, but there was a part in my life. This was a couple of years back where again, it felt like a big time. It was kind of on and off, and I felt like I was lost. And I remember I was booked to do a show in Scotland, and I had gone up there, and I'd woke up one morning and thought, I'm going to go try and find a beach or some water or just somewhere nice. And I got my guitar, took paper and pen, and I found Tensmere, but it's definitely not a bay. It's just but I thought that sounded great for the song. But I just saw the little beach, and I had it to myself, and it was stunning. It was breathtaking. And the second I kind of got onto the beach and I got my paper and pen, I had this almost weird epiphany sort of feeling that I've never had in my life. And I was questioning like sort of my purpose, kind of what I'm here, and I thought about all the negative things that I've ever felt like in life just rushed to me, all the people that I guess I've made that I've hurt and lost contact with, and I did this whole thing, and I started writing not just lyrics on one side, the Tensmere Bay originally was just kind of supposed to be like a bit of a poem of my feelings at the time.
Oh,
And then
cool.
on the other side of the sheet was people who I think I was writing down these people I've lost contact with, or whatever, family, friends, and you know,
Mm,
and then I found myself just in this weird, overwhelming sense that, you know, I'm supposed to be here right now on this beach. This is like a healing moment for me.
mm-hmm.
And I think everybody on that list I went through, and I connected back with them in some aspect, for whatever reason it would have been, you know, to explain and just put things to bed of how these relationships and friendships are, just like as in that sense of how things might have caused conflict at that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where it came from. So it's kind of a healing song
Very
to me.
much. Yeah. Even as a listener, I thought, wow, it was just very uplifting and inspiring to me, and freeing almost in a way. I absolutely enjoyed that one. But look, thank you so much for doing this interview and being so open and real. And actually so much value here too for the younger bands starting out. I really appreciate you doing this for us.
Thank you for having me. Really
Been
enjoyed
amazing.
it. Thank you.
And guys, this is the song's going to play us out, and it is Tensmer Bay.
That I would find my way